Today on Monkey Life, newly arrived female chimp Kalu meets big male Brian.
Good girl. She's doing really good, so I'm pleased.
Chimp Cindy surprises wildlife vet John with a remarkable recovery.
I have absolutely no worries about that at all. It is phenomenal, isn't it?
And Capuchin Erico muscles in on a new log pile. Monkey World in Dorset, buried deep in the English countryside, is the largest sanctuary of its kind on the planet. The team, led by Dr. Alison Cronin, rescue and rehabilitate abused and unwanted primates from all over the world.
Oh, skinny girl.
The park provides a home for more than 260 monkeys and apes from 24 different species. It's early morning, and the members of Brian's chimp group are in their outdoor enclosure, enjoying breakfast. It's a relaxed affair, although the big man does like to let everyone know who's boss. One member of the group is missing, however. Kalu arrived a month ago from South Africa, where she was kept as a pet. She isn't yet fully integrated with the others, but is beginning to settle into life at the park. She's also following a new healthy diet after a health check last week by wildlife vet John Lewis.
Really pleased with Kalu on all fronts. Physically, her blood parameters and blood glucose in terms of, she came to us profoundly diabetic, have dropped by 50%. And that's only in a couple of weeks of being here. So I'm hoping that we can completely reverse her diabetic situation. Last week, we had all of those rotten teeth removed, 6 huge ones.
Remarkably, after only a few weeks, Kalu has responded well to the training program developed by the primate care team to help them look after their charges. With a clear photograph of the inside of Kalu's mouth, Lisa can check if she's healing properly from her dental surgery. Kalu has also reacted well during introductions to some of the chimps in Brian's group, who are to become her new family. She's formed a friendship with Nari, and yesterday briefly came face to face with leader Brian, although she wasn't sure of the etiquette required.
Brian's quite a big, intimidating chap physically, but he is a really nice, soft character, and I think that that's all really good, especially for somebody who's so naive as Kalu. She can see that they have something in common. She can be in the room with him, and that most of his displays and bluster are not actually directed at her. But she learned from that first time trying to hug him mid-display that you sort of want to move aside, step aside when Brian is full dominant male display, which is good.
This morning, the two are going to meet again.
Right, you coming then, Brian? Mr. B.
The team are hoping yesterday's encounter hasn't unnerved Kalu. Brian wastes no time moving through and displaying. But this time, a more knowledgeable Kalu keeps her distance.
Good girl.
Things soon quieten down enough for Lisa to try some side-by-side feeding.
Good boy, Brian. Good girl, Kalu. That was a lot of progress, actually, so really nice, you know. Lisa got them cooperatively feeding, so sort of choosing to ignore the elephant in the room. I think she gets that she can be near him and around him and it isn't too scary, so considering that she's 37 plus years old and has never lived with other chimpanzees, we're only a couple of weeks into this, she's doing really good, so I'm pleased.
Kalu may be progressing well, But she's not the only primate resident at the park with diabetes, whose condition the care staff need to manage. One of the park's oldest female gibbons, 33-year-old Alex, has had diabetes for several years and has responded really well to treatment. But perhaps the team's biggest success story is Bart. 3 years ago, he was a very sick chimp, until a diagnosis revealed the more serious type 1 diabetes. Due to the team's sheer hard work and determination, and incredible cooperation from Bart himself, he's now transformed. He's grown into a magnificent, healthy and fit alpha male, in charge of a group of 17.
He's an absolute superstar. He's had a lot going on to cope with, so as well as dealing with us, training him all this stuff to deal with his diabetes, he's been maturing and sort of taking over Paddy's role and sort of growing up and being a proper dominant male chimp.
Bart is given an insulin injection once a day. It means his body can process the sugars in the food he eats. Without it, his condition would be fatal.
Bart, turn around.
Unlike Kalu, who has type 2 diabetes, Bart's condition is more rare and generally harder to manage. But he's taken it all in his stride.
Good boy, Bart. Good boy. Forever now we'll be managing his daily insulin and testing his blood sugar levels to make sure that he's not got too much glucose in his bloodstream or too little blood glucose in his bloodstream. We've learned a lot about what foods have what effect on him, and so we know what combinations of foods are good that are going to keep him stable, and what we might need to just keep a bit of a closer eye on. So it's been a steep learning curve for both him and for us as well. There's a lot to take in with managing diabetes.
All the group have moved to a more Bart-friendly diet, mainly vegetable-based, with fruit included every so often as a treat. Today, Bart's glucose levels were a little lower than normal, which means he can have a couple of tasty extras. A few months ago, it didn't even seem possible. He's come a long way in a short time. It's been 12 years since Monkey World took on the world's biggest ever primate rescue, collecting 88 capuchin monkeys from a laboratory in Chile and flying them back to Dorset to start a new life. They now live in 5 separate groups, each headed by a dominant male, with the support of their females. But their backgrounds before they reached the park varied, with most taken from the wild and others born at the lab.
There's a lot of variation in colour and some of them look slightly different. The ones that came from the laboratory in Chile didn't all come from Chile originally. Some of them were wild caught from Peru, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil. And so we've got various different species and subspecies within our lab capuchins. As a result, there's a lot of different friendships that have formed. Some of the wild caught individuals that were taken from the wild together in groups, like the robustus capuchins in Sunnies, those guys would have lived in the forest together and been taken into the lab. And when they came to Monkey World, they remembered their old friends and they've kept those relationships. And the same happens here at the lodge with Cara and Zoe and Becky and those guys. They're a very tight-knit friendship group, and a lot of those friendships date back to the time when they were in the rainforest.
One of those groups is Eriko's troop of 13, who live at the lodge. It's an amazing tree-filled enclosure, enabling them to live a more natural life, foraging and climbing to their heart's content. Today, Rachel is building the group a new log pile with lots of rotten branches collected from around the park. The logs are a perfect haven for insects and grubs, and the new pile also provides a great way of hiding this morning's breakfast, with the added extra of a few tasty mealworms.
Sometimes you just like to change it up a bit because some of the logs in the enclosure end up sort of a little bit hidden by the undergrowth and stuff. So sometimes it's nice just to move them around and change things up for them, because in the wild they'd be exploring new territory and finding new things to forage in and explore.
Caesar is let out first. He's the only pet trade animal in the group and a low ranker, so he gets a chance to eat before the more dominant members take charge. Once the rest of the group have joined him, it's Ringo, one of the oldest, who's first to forage through the new log pile. He quickly finds and devours the mealworms while he has the chance. Leader Eriko arrives, but doesn't realise there's something new to explore. And leaves Ringo to carry on enjoying the tasty insects. Eriko opts for breakfast from one of the suspended feeders, displaying his core strength and balance. He may be the boss, but it's dominant female Kara who's the bright spark in this outfit.
Kara is actually really intelligent, so I think she's really the brains of the operation. Eriko's the sort of the strength and the muscle. Kara's actually really good at dealing with social issues, so when there's a squabble, it's usually Kara that gets involved if she hasn't started it and sorts it out. Whereas Eriko is sometimes very good at dealing with those things and other times gets distracted by many things, members of the public, members of staff, toys, food, particularly food. So yeah, Kara's a very useful part of the group.
The log pile has finally caught Eriko's attention, and he tackles it in his usual enthusiastic way. Lots of gusto and muscle. He's soon joined by some of the more dominant females, including Becky and Phoenix. They make short work of the bug-filled log pile. While Eriko is quite at home foraging on the ground, some of the others, like Scarlet and Binti, love nothing better than being above it.
Generally speaking, the guys that spend the time up in the treetops are the wild-caught individuals. A lot of those animals would have been either in their sort of childhood or adolescence when they were taken out of the wild, so they probably have quite strong memories of climbing, and they certainly had a lot of practice before they were taken into the lab. And so those skills haven't left them. You know, they're the ones that are really capable of climbing on wobbly surfaces and climbing up bendy branches, and they don't think anything of it. Some of the lab animals that were born in the laboratory, like Eriko and Sean and Joey, it's a little bit more difficult for them because they didn't have that experience as youngsters. They didn't have that really important learning time that you would have in the forest with your troop, learning by play and exploring. So as a result, their climbing skills had to be learnt a lot later. They're not as confident. So yeah, they're getting there, but it's not quite as natural.
The Capuchins at Monkey World have been on an extraordinary life journey and now enjoy a peaceful, social and contented life at the park. Managing the well-being and welfare of such a large and diverse number of primates is a huge task for staff at the park. Training their charges to present parts of their anatomy for examination plays a key part in keeping them healthy and happy.
Ocean lips. Good girl.
The training proves highly beneficial when the team need to treat the primates for minor ailments and conditions, as well as after major interventions. It's been almost a month since Cindy, an elderly female chimp in Bart's group, developed an abscess on the side of her face. It was so large, it eventually burst.
There we go.
Due to regular training over a period of many years, the primate care team were able to take a swab and she was put on a course of antibiotics. And with her cooperation, they've been able to clean the wound 3 times a day with an iodine solution.
You're an absolute superstar, Cindy Lou.
We've seen a lot of improvement with the wound on Cindy's face. So what looked quite horrific when it first burst, it scabbed over and she had a large scab. We've been flushing it 3 times a day with iodine, but the scab dropped off yesterday and it's looking lovely and clean and it's healing really well. So we're really pleased with how the healing process is going.
Yum.
It's nice and clean, the tissue's nice and pink and healthy, so we're really happy with how that's progressing. So yeah, she's been a star patient and looking really good now.
A few days later, John Lewis is at the park and wants to check on how Cindy is healing.
Cinders. Hi. That's it. Good girl.
You know, I have absolutely no worries about that at all. It is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, she was very good.
Extraordinary.
Cindy gets the all clear. It's great news. The abscess has healed well and won't need any further intervention from the vet team. At the spider monkey enclosure, the 3 residents are patiently waiting in the tunnel for their mid-morning snack. Primate care staff member Donna has wrapped grapes in bamboo leaves to form small parcels. She's placing them in camouflaged feeders all over their enclosure, hoping to encourage the monkeys to leave the ground and use their prehensile tails as they search for food.
For the spider monkeys, we try and make their enrichment fairly easy in terms of them being able to get into it. So each one of these has only got 1 grape in it, but it means that they spend a little bit more time eating rather than just sort of lazing about. These guys do like to sunbathe, so it's nice to try and keep them nice and busy. But with using this with the hay balls as well, which are suspended in the enclosure, these guys do have a prehensile tail. So a lot of the enrichment that we do for them is aimed towards encouraging them to use that in their enclosure as much as possible.
The 3 spider monkeys, Hickory, Pumpkin and Flint, need a little motivation. So the promise of hidden grapes, which they love and form part of their weekly diet, might just be the thing to get them busy and active. Surprisingly, it's Flint who makes his way out first. The boisterous teenager is very keeper-orientated, and it's unusual to see him at the head of the queue for food. He's doing exactly what Donna hoped, using his prehensile tail as an anchor and support to enable him to reach in and grab one of the small parcels. The dominant member of the trio is female Pumpkin. Normally, where food's involved, she's at the front of the line. And although today Flint beat her to it, she soon makes up for lost time. Hickory is the old man of the group. Being at the bottom of the hierarchy, he likes to bide his time before getting involved. But there's plenty for everyone. Spider monkeys are New World monkeys, found in the tropical forests of Central and South America. They live in large troops of up to 35, but split up to forage during the day. Their diet consists mainly of fruit, but they also eat leaves, flowers and insects. Like many New World monkeys, their population in recent years has been decimated by habitat loss. The trio at Monkey World generally get on well. They all have very different personalities, but understand their position within the group. It may not always be harmonious, but they do seem happy and content with life. It's been 2 weeks since the park welcomed Pichua, a 10-year-old female woolly monkey Alison brought back from Gaia Zoo in the Netherlands. She's settled in well and is becoming accustomed to life in her new home. Pichua had recently lost her mate and, consequently, been on her own for a couple of months. The team think it's time to introduce her to some of the other woolly residents, so she can enjoy companionship of her own kind. They've decided to start with Isla, a female similar in age.
Well, we thought long and hard. We do need to do a bit of a woolly monkey switch around, which we do periodically for social and breeding reasons. And she's a female that doesn't have a dependent at the moment. She is actually due to move groups for breeding, so we do need to get Pichua company now. I think that's clear. You know, she's in proximity to other woolly monkeys, she's calling to them, and the concern is that she would become depressed sitting on her own. So we did need a solution for her, and we hope that Isla will make friends.
Pichua has been able to hear the noise and calls from the woolly group nearby. It's led by Chippy, who is her father. The pair originally lived together at a centre in France, but haven't seen each other for 10 years. The aim is for Pichua to eventually join one of the other established woolly groups at the park. Today is the start of that process, and everyone has their fingers crossed that she and Isla will get on well.
So we've got Isla in the crate. She's a little bit worried, but it went smoothly. So we're just going to get her into her bedroom so that she can settle and take stock of her new surroundings.
Pichua stays outside while the team let Isla into one of the adjoining bedrooms, so she can familiarise herself with her new surroundings. Once she's settled, Pichua is let back into a bedroom opposite, where the two females can see each other through the mesh. Other than a few inquisitive looks, it's quite a laid-back affair, so the team decide to move the introduction on and allow them into the same room.
Happy?
Yeah.
Isla carefully makes her way through. The pair greet each other with snuffles, the woolly way to say hello. But for the most part, they keep their distance. And when Isla attempts to approach Pichua in the far corner of the bedroom, the older female tells her off, causing Isla to start alarm calling.
It's been okay. I mean, Isla's obviously a little bit unsettled about what's gone on this morning. But they had a nice greeting initially and some snuffles, so that was nice. We're inclined to give them a little bit more space now and just give them outside access in the hope that they'll, calm down and kind of assess the situation. But we've taken the decision to bring the barn inside. So they have been out this morning, but obviously Chippy saw Isla leave and he was a bit upset about that. So we've cleaned over there and we've brought that group inside so that they're not an influence, and then we'll give the two girls access now.
Bringing Chippy's group inside will minimise the stress levels for both sets of woolies and give Isla and Pichua space to get used to each other. The team know they must take things one step at a time to give the new woolly resident the chance to settle and enjoy a long-term future at the park. Next time on Monkey Life. Alison's called in to rescue a pet trade marmoset after phone footage emerges of the tiny primate being subjected to horrific cruelty by its owner.
I'm shocked. Never really seen the like of it. It's heartbreaking. This animal is living in fear of its life.
And Chimp Jester boxes clever and heads high to hang on to his breakfast bounty.